when you explore and use broad match keywords into the equation, you'll have to monitor what kind of traffic now they are bringing in. And because what you're doing is that you're actually running an exclusionary campaign with high bidding, high risk. Low bidding is definitely low risk. All right. Welcome to the PPC Engineer. My name is Hamza Yaqoob and I'm your host for this specific podcast. In this podcast, we will be talking about all things Google Ads and Meta Ads. Now, PPC, as you know, it stands for pay per click. In the world that we are in right now, we're seeing that a lot of the companies out there want to sell their products, want to sell their services, and the best way that they see fit is through Google Ads and Facebook Ads. However, both of these channels are different. Specifically in this podcast, we will be starting off with all things Google Ads. So if you're someone who wants to learn Google Ads, I'm trying my level best to make sure that this podcast is of value to you. And if you see this podcast, at the end of the podcast, you could then write an email to me on hamzayaqoob@trickleup.co.uk, or just reach out to me on LinkedIn and we'll be able to connect and I'll be able to answer your questions. And that's the purpose of this podcast, that I want to answer your questions. People who are, just from the beginner phase to the expert phase. A lot of questions are out there actually. Yeah. So you have to make sure that you understand not just how to do it, but why you are doing what you're doing in terms of Google Ads. Yeah. So the topic for today is risk management. Risk management is a very important topic when you talk about Google Ads, because at the end of the day, it all boils down to the risk you're taking with your keywords, phrase matches, or the type of keywords, or basically the bidding as well. Yeah. And then we'll move on to that later. However, let's start with a question from my friend who is from Abu Dhabi. Let's just read his, and the name is Raid. So he has sent this question to me. I'll just read it out to you. All right. Hamza, I've been running Google Ads for the past 2 years now, and my company is now running ads with a campaign that runs it on both phrase match and exact match. Do you think that it's worth it to try broad match into the equation as well? What do you think? Okay, Raid, while you talk about keywords, obviously we know that there are different types of keywords as well. Yeah. So just judging by your question, I can understand there are, two things that you're trying to do. The first is you're focusing on traffic quality. How do I say that? Because specifically when you talk about Google Ads, if you run it on phrase match and exact match, it sort of reduces the traffic, the audience that you're trying to reach. So you're trying to reach a very specific audience. So that audience might be getting you results, might not be getting you results, but obviously what you're saying, if you've been running it for a long period of time, it is actually getting you results, because again, you're focusing on the traffic quality. Now the question is very important. Yeah. The question is that, and that's the second part, that if you are running your ads on two specific keywords, would you try to include some broad match keywords into the equation? And the answer is very simple. It's not as simple as it looks on the face of it. However, because Google has provided us with these match types, and if you would ask me, if you would have asked me 2 years ago or 3 years ago, the definition of broad match keywords, the definition itself that Google tells us was very different back then. I've read multiple articles, I've talked to a lot of Google Ads experts. It has changed over the period of time. All right. So based on that, broad match keywords are quite different now than what they were, and I'll explain that later on. However, what I think is that you should definitely go for broad match keywords and you should try it out. Now, by trying it out, I don't necessarily mean that you should put 10-15 directly keywords into your campaign. I'm not saying that at all. And obviously there are a lot of people, when they ask me something, I tell them, and they just directly implement the thing. I try to be very careful with my words. All right. So what I'm saying is that initially, if you want to explore broad match keywords, you can actually include 2 to 3 broad match keywords into the equation, and monitor them, see what kind of traffic they're providing you. And the purpose is very simple, because what you're doing is that you're actually running an exclusionary campaign where you're excluding a certain amount of audience. And again, I'm assuming that you also would be excluding a lot of locations, something you'll have a lot of age restrictions as well. You'll be having a lot of sliders in terms of bidding. So there are a lot of exclusions when you talk about choosing an audience. All right. So that's why what broad match does is that it provides you with an open field to explore. I would term it as that. When you explore and use broad match keywords into the equation, you'll have to monitor what kind of traffic now they are bringing in. And the best thing that will help you determine that is basically the search terms that are popping up on your Google Ads interface. If those search terms are relevant to the goals and objectives of the campaign, well and good. You should try to focus on that. You should try to improve that. If there are any search terms that are not related, or if you think that's a waste of money, you should add that into the negative keywords section. So that's about it. All right. Now moving on to the topic of the podcast, risk management. And again, this podcast, I'm trying my level best to provide you with the best of value through this podcast. And there will be multiple principles of Google Ads that I will be unfolding in the upcoming podcast, which you should definitely watch. And this is just the first podcast. And this is not a podcast like, this is not a course that, all of these salesy digital marketers are selling, which basically just provides you with how and not the why. I'm providing you with a very in-depth and understanding of why you should do things and how to incorporate the best principles of Google Ads into your strategy for a long-term approach. All right. So that's why the very first principle that I'm getting at is risk management. Risk management in terms of Google Ads. So I'll divide that into 3 parts. The very first part is the keyword that helps you control the risks. You could either increase the risk with your keyword, you could either reduce the risk with your keywords. Now, what does that mean? So the keyword primarily means that I'll just specifically choose a niche. All right. So I've worked in a lot of niches. Primarily, I think for me, medical billing has been one of the biggest industries when you talk about running ads on Google. I've seen CPCs from $50 a click to $100 a click. Maybe other industries would be roof repairing in the USA, or legal services in the USA as well. So those niches could be at par with medical billing as well. However, I worked in medical billing. I'll just tell you some keywords that you'll be able to understand that how risk would be managed in those specific keywords. So for instance, medical billing. All right. If I just use medical, all right. If I just use medical, what does that tell you? Medical is just maybe a noun, maybe an adjective. It's just a word, all right. If you use that specific word in your ad, just medical, the risk is enormous. You're spending on a word that does not have an action, that does not have a verb in the keyword itself. However, when you add billing into it, medical billing, now billing is an action, is a word that just greatly reduces the risk. All right. So medical billing, the risk automatically gets reduced. All right. Similarly, if you add another word in it, medical billing near me. Now, near me is basically a compound word. I'll term it as a compound word. So this is a 3-word keyword. All right. So it's medical billing near me, and automatically what you see is that the overall risk is reduced, almost 60%. So that I think is important to understand. Similarly, if you talk about different industries, you talk about roof repair. So similarly, roof is just a word. Roof repair near me. Yep. The second part of this specific keyword, how to reduce the risk, is to focus on funnels. The first funnel, when you talk about medical billing, you could associate multiple aspects with it. So for instance, account receivables or enrollment. So all of these other related words are basically high funnel. So if someone searches for account receivable, he's not necessarily searching for medical billing companies. He might be or he might not be. The risk is greater. The more you delve into the risk, account receivable, help for account receivable, for instance, okay? Or you could focus on like roof repair. If someone is focusing on roof repair, he could be searching for how do I fix my roof, and again, that person has a roof that is broken or something is wrong with that, and he's searching for, or he might not be searching for. So you have to consider the funnel: high funnel, high risk; low funnel, low risk. Now coming to the keyword match types, and just from the keywords I've told you how to control the risk from just the keywords. Another important aspect is the keyword match types. As I said from Raid's question, that you have to incorporate phrase match keywords, exact match keywords. What does that mean? So very simply, I'll just get to the point. If you're using broad match keywords nowadays, because obviously Google has changed a lot of things. Nowadays, broad match keyword means that if you're using a broad match keyword, the terms or the audience that you'll be getting or the searches that you'll be getting might be related to your keyword. It does not necessarily have the same meaning, but they might be related, all right, on a very broad spectrum. Previously that was not the case. Previously it was a bit better, but now it means that. Secondly, moving on to the phrase match keyword. So the phrase match keyword actually, a lot of people say that with the phrase match keyword, there would be, one word here. If you're using roof repair, there might be repair roof. It cannot be, anything other than that. However, now what Google has done is that it basically gives you a lot of other searches as well, as long as those searches are related to the meaning of your keyword or your phrase match keyword. Lastly, exact match keyword means the exact meaning that you're trying to achieve. All right. So that's the important bit. All right. And the last and final risk management aspect or principle that I would like to incorporate is the bidding. I think the bidding is more important, and very simply, if I put it, high bidding, high risk. Low bidding is definitely low risk. All right. Now, a lot of the people use maximize conversions bidding, maximize clicks bidding. A lot of people use manual CPC as well. The problem with a lot of these automated bidding or smart bidding strategies is that you just you assign a budget, and that budget is consumed by Google without any concern for your specific interest or your specific decisions. All right. So you're not able to have that control over the campaign. However, with target CPA, this is another part of the Google Ads strategy, where you incorporate our target CPA, which is cost per acquisition, which you tell Google that obviously I want a conversion in less than $20, for instance. All right. So you might not get conversions even for that as well. So that's the bidding aspect of it. So the only thing that you can do is that you can incorporate strong keywords, and then use a mix of bidding. Make sure that whatever you're bidding at, it's related to your campaign. And then at the end of the day, it's about discovering it for yourself. I hope you found this podcast valuable. Again, if you have any questions, you could reach out to me on hamzayaqub@trickleup.co.uk. You could reach out to me on my LinkedIn, which all the links will be down in the description. Again, follow, subscribe, and do comment. Thank you so much.